Hey guys, my name is Ryan. You're watching the Automotive Chaos YouTube channel. Today we're taking a little break from the 56 Chevy and we're going to do some maintenance on my Cummins Ram. So this is actually being recorded a little bit in the future. I'll show you what I took out, what we're going to be replacing, and then we'll go back a little bit and actually take it out of the truck. So let's see what we got. All right, so I pulled the factory sending unit and fuel hat out of the truck, and there were a couple of reasons for this. First one being that the fuel gauge has not worked in this truck since I purchased it. I've only run out of gas once, but it is a little bit inconvenient. And the other thing is I still have a bit of an intermittent hard starting issue. So when I go to crank the truck, it'll crank just fine, but it won't actually fire until I give it a little bit of gas. Now, the last video that we did on this truck, I replaced the lift pump, I eliminated the fuel heater, and the issue did get a little bit better. The drivability definitely improved as well, but I'm still having the hard start issue. So I figured to hopefully remedy that, drop the tank, pull the sending unit out, and I'll show you what we're going to be replacing it with. All right, so this is a Fleece Sureflo unit for the 91 to 97 Cummins Ram. And this replaces the entire sending unit. And a lot of people will do this if they're running an electric lift pump, which currently I still have the mechanical unit on the truck, and it's probably going to stay that way for a while, at least until I build the transmission. But if you sump the tank, or if you do, I think it's called a draw straw, a lot of guys will run into quarter tank issues when they do those. And basically, once you hit a quarter of a tank, you're not able to actually pull fuel up to the lift pump. So hopefully this fix is going to repair the fuel gauge as well as the intermittent hard start issue. And inevitably in the future, when I decide to turn this truck up and melt the transmission down into a spoon, the sending unit will already be done, and if I need to increase the line size or go with an electric lift pump, hopefully there won't be any more modifications needed. So with that being said, let's get out there, we'll get the truck up in the air, and we'll start working on taking this fuel tank out. Okay, with the truck somewhat up in the air, you're going to want to leave yourself more than like 2 inches to squeeze under the truck, which is what I have. But I'm just going to struggle like normal. So we're going to undo the filler neck and then these two lines that go to the tank. And it's definitely going to help to have a hose pry tool, because I'm assuming those things are locked on there pretty well. So I'll get my hands up in there, we'll disconnect that, and then bring you back when we're ready to move on to the next step. Okay, filler neck assembly is out. If you guys are doing this, it will make it a little bit easier. There are 3 Phillips head screws behind the fuel cap, and once you remove those, you can actually move the filler neck around. And the larger hose, the fill hose, makes it a lot easier if that neck is loosened up to get that off, just because chances are it's going to be a little stiff from being under the truck for 33 years, however old your truck is. So it'll just make your life a little bit easier. And once you pop the cap off, you'll be able to get access to all 3. So with those removed, next thing I'm going to do is try and reach on top of the fuel tank and undo the 2 fuel lines as well as the sending unit electrical connection. So just to give you an idea of what we're looking at, you can see the white hose barb there went to our vent line, and then, sorry, I'm looking through the camera and trying to do this, so I may not be able to grab it, but okay, there we go. This is the plug for the fuel sending unit, which currently does not work in this truck, which is another reason for dropping the tank and doing this install. Now, if you're going to keep the factory fuel lines, now would be a good time to disconnect them. I'm going to run new lines from the tank up to the lift pump and from the overflow valve on the injection pump. So I'm going to leave those two lines on top of the tank and just drop everything all at once. The other thing I noticed while I was up here, again, I don't know if you'll be able to see it, but this lock ring was hand tight. So I doubt it has anything to do with the fuel issue we've been having with this truck, but it shouldn't be loose either. I'm sure it was probably leaking out of there a little bit. But with everything that I need disconnected now, I'm going to secure the tank, and then we'll drop. There are two 15 millimeter bolts on the other side. So got one there, and then another one up there, kind of right near the carrier bearing. So I'll get this secured up, get the straps out of the way, and then we can start lowering this tank. Wrestle the tank out from under the truck. The instructions say to take note of where the fuel and sending unit outlets are. I just took a picture of it, so when we go to put this back in, we'll make sure that's in the same orientation. Like I said before, it was hard to see, but that is not right. So, being that that has to come off anyway, we'll just undo that now. All right, so I have the lines from the tank to the factory soft line connections pulled out of the truck, and then this is the line from the overflow valve on the injection pump that goes down to the other hard line. So now we have the tank, and all of the factory fuel lines are moved from the vehicle. There are actually still a couple lines underneath the truck, but they're out. So next thing we have to do, I'm going to move the tank to the back, and I'll start putting the new sending unit in, and I got to run to the store tomorrow and get some fittings and some fuel lines so we can replumb this fuel system. Because the sending unit fits a number of different years, you have to pay close attention to the instructions regarding the pigtail for the sending unit. Now this truck is a 94, but the diagram for the install instructions for a 94 are, or I should say, they do not match the connector that I have on this truck. It does match for a 93, and the instructions state that these two wires, which are number 4 and 5 on the connector, should be tied together somewhere in the harness. Now, I cut some of the sheathing back to see if there was like a factory union anywhere. I don't see it. It might be, I don't know, this harness obviously goes all the way up to the dash, so who knows where it could be. But I did ohm out number 4 and 5 here, and I have continuity between the two. So I'm going to take that as maybe this truck was an early production year, not 100% sure, but I checked the factory sending unit resistance, and it says this one should work, and based on the wiring instructions that they give you, I'm going to go with cutting these two wires, butt splicing these together, and then wire number 2 also goes to the new pigtail. So I guess we'll see what happens, but I'm going to cut this and we'll get the new pigtail on, and then I'll probably end up plugging it in, turning the key on, and I'll just move the float switch manually, and we'll see if the gauge moves. If not, we're going to have to do something else. We'll see what happens. Spliced in the new connector. There was still one wire to the factory one, so I left that and just kind of taped it up and secured it in the harness with the new plug. So I guess what we'll do now is plug this into the sending unit, turn the key, and see if we get any reading. Before, with the old one, it didn't matter how much fuel I had in the truck, it wouldn't go above a quarter of a tank on the gauge. So, okay, sending unit is plugged in. I think I have the float adjustment where it should be for a full tank. So, let's see what we get. At the very least, we fixed the fuel gauge issue, which will be very helpful. You guys saw all of the fuel lines yanked out of the truck. I took everything from the factory sending unit all the way up to the lift pump and the injection pump out, mainly because I wanted to eliminate any possibility of a rotted, corroded, or cracked fuel line, which seems to be pretty common on these trucks. So here's what I have to solve it. Now the Fleece unit accepts or will accept the factory fuel lines, but because those are yanked out, I got these. These are made by Vibrant, and they are meant to slip onto and seal over a factory fuel line. So I have that one for the return, and I have a larger one for the feed. Now the feed, this one here, is going to go to our lift pump. If you have a stock truck, it would go to your fuel heater. In the last video I did on this truck, we eliminated that when we did the lift pump. So this will go directly to our lift pump. And this is the fitting that I have to go into the lift pump. So that'll go on the pump. This will go on the sending unit. And then we're going to use some -6 Aeroquip line to connect the two. Now, from the overflow valve on the injection pump back to the tank, I have another quick connect fitting that'll slip over that. Obviously the return is a little bit smaller. That is 5/16. I have an adapter barb to accept 5/16 line. And then from the overflow valve, I ordered this kit from Larry B's, and this has the correct banjo fitting, the 2 gaskets. I already did an adjustable overflow valve in this truck. Obviously that's removed right now. So this will all go in along with the line, and that should complete our fuel system. So I'm going to start plumbing all this stuff in, and I'll bring you guys back when I have some lines under the truck. Okay, I have both my feed and return lines done. Tucked up those out of the way for now while we get the tank in. I ran the lines all the way down the frame rail. Tried to use as much of the stock brackets as I possibly could, but everything's zip tied out of the way of anything that'll get hot or possibly chafe any of the lines. Bring you guys under the hood real quick and show you what we have there. Okay, so here we have the overflow valve with the banjo bolt. I have the line with a little bit of sheathing over it run down the side of the cylinder head, back behind the fuel filter, and all the way down. And I don't know if I'm going to be able to get in there to show you guys. I don't think so, but I have the fitting on the lift pump as well. You just have to take my word for it. All right, so I'm going to place our new tank seal. So make sure that's sitting flush. I went ahead and clipped the fuel sending unit, or the float into the sending unit, I should say. Now I'm just going to very gently work this in. Okay. All right, so we have our fuel level float, new tank seal, the sending unit, and the lock ring installed. Time to slide this onto the truck. Well, it's the next day. I got the tank up into the truck last night, and then that fitting, or that hose that you see coming out from behind the brace for the bed, with the straight fitting that I had, would not work. So I had to go after work today and grab a 90 off of that. But that's all plumbed up now. Last thing I have to do is hook up the tank filler, which I'm going to do momentarily, and then we can prime the lift pump and hopefully fire this thing up. So I will get that stuff done, and then we'll hop in the truck and see what we've got. All right, filler hose is back on. Prime the lift pump. So turn the key and see what happens. All right, so that's going to do it for this one. Truck is back together. It runs. Fuel gauge works. Hard starting is definitely improved, but I feel like there might still be an issue, or I might need to bleed the entire system. But for now, I'm happy with it. Truck's definitely running better. There'll be more to come on this truck, but got to get this going first. So next video, definitely be working on the 56 again. Thank you guys so much for watching. Catch you next time.